to order. Noting that attendance has been taken, we have Councillor McAlpine, Councillor Bell, Councillor Miller, Councillor Coleman, and Councillor Garneau, and myself, which makes quorum. So we'll be able to have our meeting, which is just dandy. Takes us to number 2 on the agenda, which is the approval of the agenda. Councillor Garneau. Yeah.
So I've moved by myself that the County of Brant Special Council meeting agenda for the September 24th, 2024 be approved.
Thank you. Seeking a seconder. Councillor Coleman. Thank you. All those in favor? Opposed and carried. Number 3 on the agenda is the declaration of pecuniary interest. Councillor Kyle, you have one?
Yes, the Mitchell drain, which we're going to be talking about today, is the drain that runs through our farm property, so I'll have to excuse myself for that and the corresponding bylaw.
Okay, thank you. Takes us to number 4 on the agenda, which is the delegations. So this is number 4.1. It becomes a public meeting, so I'm going to declare it a public meeting, and I'm going to ask for our first delegation, which is, who's doing the report? Yeah, there we go. If you'd like to just come to the podium, please, and give us your name and who you represent, and we'll take it from there.
Hi, I'm Michael Terzian, and I represent Headway Engineering. I'm the project coordinator for this project.
Thank you. You can proceed.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to present our report on the Mitchell Municipal Drain for your consideration today. I've got a small PDF presentation that I'm going to go through, and you could follow along on the screen as I go through it. So to start off with your authority, we were appointed under Section 78 of the Drainage Act at the September 26, 2022 council meeting. I'll do that. Project location. The image on the right just shows an overall area. Basically, it highlights the overall area of Brant County. The red dot in the northwest corner represents the project location, and then that blown up on the left image, that shading in the left image, that blue shading represents the watershed for the project. So you can see that the project is literally located in the northwest corner of the county. It's bound by the township of North Dumfries to the north and the township of Blandford-Blenheim to the west. Both of those townships are involved in terms of watershed area and contribution to this project, but as you can see from that map, most of the watershed is within Brant County. There's a little bit of air in the northeast corner of the watershed. You can see the built-up area that will drain through this drainage system. A brief drainage system summary and the history of the drain. As we know right now, the Mitchell Municipal Drain consists of a main drain open, which is about 3 kilometers or 3,000 meters in length. It is an open ditch. There is a small closed section about 547 meters long that consists of a tile drain. Branch A is about 584 meters rather of a tile drainage system. Branch B is about 326 feet, or rather about 100 meters of tile drain. Branches C and D are both open ditches, branch C being about 1 kilometer long and branch D being about 1,175 meters long. The drain was originally constructed under a report, as far as we know, dated July 10th in 1911. Main drain open, branch A and B, both those tile drains are updated under a report dated July 18th, 1949. Main drain open, branches A, B, C, and D were upgraded, and new culverts were installed under a report dated October 1st, 1968. That's the report that probably generated the most work or authorized the most work on the system on most of those components, where since then, not much has been done on the rest of the drainage system. Part of main drain open was closed in under a report dated September 26, 1979. That part would have been in North Dumfries. So there was a section of the drain that extended north into North Dumfries. That section was closed in 1979. And then on a report dated December 9th, 2016, there's a small section of main drain open that was closed in Brant County, just south of north, where the drain crossed into North Dumfries. And a branch E, which consists of an open ditch and a closed tile system, was constructed at that time. And I believe the 79 and the 2016 reports were mostly authorized to service proposed subdivisions in North Dumfries or in Ayr. Just going on to the public engagements, we held an on-site meeting on December 13th, 2022. Some of the highlights of that meeting, were that the main drain, branches C and D, require complete cleanouts. Branch A needs upgrading as a tile drainage system and a better outlet into the main drain. I think at the time of that meeting, it was said that Branch A was outletting about 2 feet below the stream bed into main drain, so it had basically effectively no outlet at all. Several culverts needed replacing or upgrading. Some new culverts needed to be designed and installed. There was maintenance done on the main drain upstream of Nith Road in 2016, but it's not known when main drain downstream of Nith Road was last maintained. And there was a dam holding back some water on the main drain that was to be removed under maintenance. That was as of the 2022 meeting. We held an information meeting on May 1st, 2024, where we presented the proposed design, the estimated costs, and the proposed distribution of those costs. And that was on May 1st, 2024. So through our investigation, our findings consist of kind of what I just reiterated. The main drain and both of those open branches require complete cleanouts. Several of the culverts needed replacing and upgrading. Maintenance done on the main drain was upstream of Nith Road in 2016. Maintenance was done on main drain from Drumbo Road to where about that tile drain branch A enters in January 2023. And it's not known when the rest of main drain was last maintained, likely never was since it was constructed or upgraded in 1968. And that dam that I referred to earlier was removed in 2023 under maintenance. There are some wetlands within the watershed, but they're designated as unevaluated. And the Department of Fisheries and Oceans classification system indicates that the Mitchell drain is not rated under their drain classification system. The watershed area overall is approximately 763 hectares, or in other words, 1,885 acres, that consists mostly of agricultural lands, but there are some woodlots, some wetlands, some roads, and built-up residential, mostly in air. So based on those findings, our recommendations are that main drain, branches C and D be cleaned out and deepened where required. 4 private culverts and 1 road culvert be installed on main drain. I just want to make a correction there. That should be 5 private culverts rather. And 1 of the road culverts that crosses Nith Road will be upgraded along main drain. 2 private culverts be installed on branch C and 2 private culverts be installed on branch D. And we also propose to upgrade branch A, which is that tile drainage system, to today's standards of drainage using or designing it for an 1.5 inch drainage coefficient per 24 hours. And we'd also propose to abandon branch D, which is a short little tile drain that entered or outletted into branch A. And we would service that area that it otherwise serviced by connecting it to branch A using an offset catch basin rather than its separate branch. This is just an overall watershed plan of the drainage area, and it highlights the drainage system itself. So that blue dashed line kind of in the main part of the area, that is the watershed area that I kind of highlighted earlier in the project location slide. Within that, the drainage system, you can see that the green wiggly line, that represents main drain open. That is an open ditch system that I said before is about 3 kilometers in length. Branch A is a dashed line on kind of the west side. But in the middle of the page, that's the tile drainage system that we propose to upgrade, part of this report. Branch C is a purple line that kind of extends along Nith Road and turns toward northwest towards North Dumfries, sort of at the top of the page. That's an open ditch system. And branch C, or branch D rather, is the yellow highlighted line on the east side of the watershed that flows east from the main drain towards Air Road. So just jumping to the estimated project cost. The total estimated cost of this project is $812,000. What that consists of is the allowances, the construction costs, which include provisional items, our engineering fees for meeting correspondence, surveying, the design cost estimates, reporting this meeting, environmental consultations and approvals, the preparation of the contract documents, the administration, and our supervision and inspection of construction. And it also includes any contingencies, interests, and HST. The pie chart on the left shows kind of the breakdown of those items and their contribution to the overall cost, and the construction costs form basically 2/3 of the overall project at 66%. A little summary of the assessment of those costs in terms of land use. Municipal lands are contributing approximately $126,000 or 15% of the cost towards this project. Private non-agricultural lands, basically kind of built up area resident, small severed lots, will contribute about $45,000, or in other words, 6% of the total cost towards the project. And private ag lands or private agricultural lands will contribute about 640,000 of the 812,000, forming roughly about 80% of the overall costs. Just continuing the assessment of, this is another way to kind of present it or look at it in terms of the township contributions. So the township in North Dumfries is assessed about 74,000 or 9% of the total costs. Blandford Blenheim will contribute about 35,500 or about 4% of the costs. And Brant County, where the majority of the land is and the majority of the work is, will contribute the most amount, about 87% of the 812,000, totaling about 703,000 overall. And lastly, I just have some photos that show some of the items of work that we're proposing. For example, a low-level crossing. We are proposing as one of the culverts. It won't be a kind of conventional round crossing. It'll be a low-level crossing on one of the bottom farms near the bottom of the main drain open. That farm, based on the size of the ditch and the topography adjacent to it, wouldn't be able to handle, I guess, a conventional round pipe. So we have to revert to a low-level crossing of this type. So this just shows a completed low-level crossing with the concrete ramps and the two pipes going through the ditch. This is a typical new farm culvert that we've installed. It's installed, but the seeding and the vegetation hasn't caught yet, which would have been the next step. But it's basically complete with the riprap protection, and the laneway through it has been built up. And this is a typical new road culvert. So we are proposing the culvert through Nith Road. So it'll be similar to this one with the riprap protection on both sides, but this just gives you an example of what a new road culvert would look like once it's complete as well. This is a photo of a typical open ditch cleanout or an excavation, where one side's been cleared, or one side consists of a working corridor, a little bit of the other side's been cleared, and you can see there is some riprap protection along the banks to help support the banks and maintain the structure of the ditch. We do have provisions in this project for bank protection, so as we go through it, if there are areas we identify that need erosion control and bank stabilization, we have provisions in the contract or in the cost estimate to include that protection as we get through it. And I believe lastly, the photos show typical tile drain installations, which are relevant to Branch A, that being the tile drain system. The photo on the left just shows a concrete tile drainage system being installed by means of a wheel trencher. And the photo on the right just shows a completed catch basin with the riprap around it, which will also be part of Branch A. And that dark soil that you see in front of it, that's just basically the working corridor after the farmer or the landowner has had the time to go over it and work it and level it down. So you can see it's basically been worked down and adjacent to the field as it was before construction. So that basically concludes my summary and presentation for the Minchin Municipal Drain, and I'd be happy to take any questions from anybody at this point.
Thank you. Does council have any questions of the delegation? Councillor Miller, you're first, and then Councillor Coleman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A couple questions for you, the engineer. Just a question on the culverts, a couple questions. Farm culverts have been designed using a minimum standard of a 5-year rainfall event.
That's correct.
But the road culvert for Nith was designed using a 10-year rainfall event. Why the difference?
There's usually a difference because the farm culverts, they're designed to less of a standard because they could, the land around them could accommodate some of the additional surcharge, like the banks will flood and the water will flow along the banks around the culverts. So they don't necessarily have to be designed to a higher standard to accommodate the higher flows, whereas with roads, you'd rather have that water pass through the culvert than go over top of the road and possibly wash out the road. So given that this Nith Road is not a very high traffic or high volume road, but nevertheless it is a traveled road, the standard is a little bit lower than it would be for let's say higher classified roads, but nevertheless it's just kind of the next step up from a farm crossing. So it basically is there to protect the road and prevent some of the erosion or flooding that will occur during more frequent storms.
Do you think, just a personal opinion, but do you think the standard is enough given what we've seen this summer?
That's a good, interesting question because I know standards have been changing kind of over time. You know, what we'd call a 5-year storm in the past might be a 2-year storm now kind of thing, or that sort of thing. So I guess sticking with recommended standards, it satisfies that need, but I think there is that question where you'd always maybe want to look at how standards are changing to maybe accommodate some of the changing, I guess, the climate that we're experiencing.
Yeah, I don't think we should over-engineer everything, but that's just my opinion. These culverts, then, what's the lifespan do we expect out of them?
They're galvanized culverts, so that is going to increase their lifespan a little bit. I'd say at least probably 50 years to 75 years. Oh, aluminized, sorry, which adds a further life to them, not galvanized. Like,
I just wonder what a 5-year rainfall event would look like in 50 years.
Yeah.
If you follow my logic.
yeah, and just to go over the existing culverts, I think a lot of these existing crossings were installed under that 68 report. So that right now is about almost 60 years old, and we're seeing a lot of them that need replacing. And that's not necessarily due to, I guess, the flow rates or the impact of it's just, farm equipment going over top of them being deflected, them starting to rust out, that sort of thing, rather than upgraded based on the flow rates. But
And that's another point. The farm equipment, Mr. Mayor, through you, engineer, it's gotten bigger, right? So
That's
you got to
correct.
make them a little more robust.
well, the steel is a bit thicker, and we also make them a lot wider to accommodate the bigger equipment. So our culverts, I believe, are designed for a 6-meter top width for the crossing itself, which usually translates to about a 10 or 12-meter culvert length. So the culverts have been lengthened to accommodate a wider driving width, and I believe the steel gauge is a little bit thicker than what they were put in 60 years ago.
Okay. That's good to hear. Last question, question of procedure. When we hold the quarter revision, do we need a representative from Blandford, Blenheim, and from North Dumfries on that quarter revision? Do you know?
I believe we do, Steve. Yeah, I believe we do.
We need one from each.
Yes.
Councillor Coleman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Following the line of Councillor Miller with the culverts, the low-lying culverts,
Yes.
maximum tonnage that you can drive over them.
I have to say I don't know that off the top of my head. That's maybe information
40 ton, wouldn't it?
I'm not sure. I'd have to check that out. I don't know. I don't know the minimum in terms of tonnage over or load over top of it.
Well, the reason I'm asking is I was involved with the municipal drain when we did on the south end of Brantford during off Garden Ave, and we put bridges in there, and there was a maximum of 40 tons to get trucks from one side of over to the other side of the field. So
Oh, I
that's
see.
why I'm asking.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Councillor McAlpine.
Kind of along the lines of some of the other questions. There's a couple properties that think that their properties don't currently flow into the main drain, so they're wondering if they could have a field site visit with you in regards to that. Can that be arranged at some point in the future? Or at least a visit with you about that?
Okay.
And the appeals process, that would be when we have an appeals court, I assume. But they're just wondering about getting involved in that process, I guess.
Oh, in terms of the Court of Revision or appealing their assessment?
Yeah.
Steve Jones? Yeah. Maybe Steve will answer that question.
Okay.
Sorry if I may. So my name is Steve Brickman. I work with Mike at Headway Engineering as well. And I'm the engineer on this project. And anyway, the question specific to the quarter revision, just how that goes about. So the quarter revision is set aside specifically for appeals or for cost distributions. It has nothing to do with design or anything like that. It's all about the cost distributions. And there will be instructions coming from the county as to how to do that. So there will be instructions basically stating when the quarter revision will be held, how to appeal. So there'll be instructions like appeal, provide a document in writing to be filed by 10 days prior to the court. So all of those instructions will come, assuming that the provisional bylaw gets passed today, all of those instructions will come following today. So that'll include all of that information, but basically file appeal in writing on time and with a specification as to the basis of the appeal. So my property is assessed too high, so-and-so's property is assessed too little. You know, that's the type of template that you would follow in doing an appeal.
Yeah. Now, if they have sort of questions about actually how the drain is designed, then how would they go about that? If they would like to see a correction to it, or
So through the mayor, if I may, today is the day to ask questions about the design.
because I understand they weren't able to make it today, but So,
Yeah, Mr. Walton.
yeah.
Through the mayor to council. Under the Drainage Act, there's a very set out procedures how we deal with these drains. The engineer has filed their report. They can't change it anymore. We're here today to decide whether we're going to accept the report or not, and recommend to council to pass the 2 readings on the bylaw, which accepts it and then sets the procedure in place for the appeals to it. So if somebody does not like the way that the watershed has been set out, or does not think the drain is properly designed, they should be here today or put comments to here today to set that out. The appeals on any assessments are dealt with by the Court of Revision. So today we're here to decide whether council is going to accept the report, pass 2 readings on it, and then the process for any appeals is set out. But the engineer is not in a position to change the report now. It's up to us to accept it or to send it back.
And through you, Mr. Mayor, if I just may add to that, the meetings that we do have are for that reason, to not only provide the information that we found, but and also to get the feedback from the landowners of whether our watershed is incorrect the way we've established it, or if they had issues with the design. So we encourage people to come out to those meetings so we can get some of those questions resolved. And we try to, at those meetings, encourage any further questions to come out and to be presented before the report is filed, because as Rob said, after that, it basically is what it is in terms of what we're presenting in the report. I know I did have a couple of inquiries after our information meeting, and I did try to set up meetings with the individuals, but those meetings just never materialized. So I guess those questions were kind of left unanswered. But
And this has been underway for quite a substantial length of time already, right?
I think about 2 years.
Yes.
We were appointed in September 26, 2022, so it's been about 2 years now.
Yeah, that was my understanding too. Just final question, and these were things I already knew, but it was brought up. Opportunities for financing the costs. Now that's done through the county then, if they want to finance it, and then it would be through their taxes, would it?
Mr. Walton.
Through the mayor to council. So when we pass the bylaw for this, we do offer financing opportunities for the assessments. I can't remember off the top of my head. Usually on drains, it's usually 5 years, I believe, but on other projects, we've offered 10 years before. So I'm not sure what that is, but the bylaw will assess that when we pass the 2 readings on the bylaw.
Okay, thank you very much.
Welcome.
Thank you. Councillor Bell.
Thank you. Through you to our presenters. Not very familiar with these kind of systems, but where does the main drain discharge to?
Oh, through you, Mr. Mayor. The main drain discharges into natural water course, basically at the boundary road between Blandford, Blenheim, and Brant County. I can just show you. So if you follow that green line to the bottom end, flow on this drawing, the flow is going to the bottom and to the left side of the page. So you can see where it stops at the boundary road there. That's basically where the municipal drain system ends and the natural water course begins.
Flow goes from east to west and north to south. Is that correct?
Generally, in the watershed, the flow is going from northeast to southwest in general topographic direction.
Again, just for my information, so there is a boundary here. On the other side of that boundary, are we confident that there are no obstructions that would then cause the Mitchell drain system to back up?
You mean
is that part of your scope of work?
Are you referring to the boundary road or the watershed boundary?
The watershed boundary.
Oh, the watershed boundary we established using kind of available technology for the province of Ontario. That's basically just saying that on one side of the boundary, if you could imagine the boundary exaggerated kind of like this, one side the water drains towards our system, and on the other side it's draining to adjacent drainage systems. So I'm not sure about the flow being blocked towards it. It's just we've determined the watershed to be that blue line. So anything within that is contributing water towards the drainage system as you see it here.
Just to be clear, then the drain system discharges to the west and into what looks like a stream that I'm looking at on this drawing.
Yeah, correct? Sorry, I can't blow that up, but it's a light gray stream flowing towards the left side of the photo there, or the picture.
Again, from my understanding, is part of your scope of work to confirm that when the Mitchell system discharges, it can discharge properly and it won't get backed up?
As far as we know, it's going to. We did not. That wasn't part of our scope to continue down the natural water course. I mean, the Mitchell Drain's been an open ditch since it's been constructed since 1911, I think it was. So we're just making the improvements to it. Sir, maybe Steve, you want to add something to it? Go ahead.
So sorry, through the mayor. We do, so under the Drainage Act, under I think it's section 15 of the Act, we are required to take our systems to a sufficient outlet. And actually in our report on page 5, we commented under heading 5.3, the outlet, we commented on the natural water course. We did find that it is of adequate depth and capacity and sufficient outlet to provide an outlet for this Mitchell drain.
Yeah, that's good. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Any other questions from council? Seeing none, I'm going to, because this is a public meeting, I'm going to ask if there's anybody in the room that wants to speak for or against this proposal. I'll ask for the second time. Is there anyone in the room that wants to speak to or for against this proposal, this application? Seeing I'll ask for the third time. Does anyone in the room want to speak to or against this proposal? Okay, seeing none, I will call this meeting closed. Thank you very much for your presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
What does council want to do with the recommendation, Councillor Coleman?
Mr. Mayor, I'll move the recommendation.
Looking for a seconder for the recommendation, Councillor McAlpine. Is there any other discussion, concerns, questions about this proposal before we take the vote? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Carried, thank you. Number 5 on the agenda is in camera. We have nothing to go in camera about. Number 6 is the bylaws. Councillor Miller, you have the bylaws. Maybe you don't. Oh, I'm sorry about that. Do you want the clerk to read it out?
Moved by myself, second by Councillor Coleman.
Councillor McAlpine.
That bylaw 100-24 and bylaw 101-24 be read first time.
Thank you. All those in favor of the first reading of the bylaw? Second reading of the bylaw, please, Councillor Miller.
So that bylaw 100-24 and bylaw 101-24 be passed a second time.
Are there any questions to the second reading of the bylaws? The bylaw. 2 laws. Now, all those in favor? And the third and final reading, please, Councillor Miller.
Okay, and keep in mind, there will be no third reading tonight of the bylaw number 124, and that being the
Now we're back to 1.
Mitchell Municipal Drain. So now we're at 1. So that bylaw number 101-24, and that being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of council, be passed a third time.
All those in favor of the third reading? Opposed? Carried. Any other business for the betterment of the county of Brant? Seeing none, takes us to number 7 on the agenda, which is the adjournment of this meeting, and the next council meeting will be here at 6 o'clock tonight.